The star chamber of the Galactic Council was silent, but not peaceful. It was a vast hall made of dark crystal walls that reflected distant galaxies like mirrors. Floating lights moved slowly above a circular table where the representatives of hundreds of worlds sat. Each one had come with the same purpose: to decide which new planet would be claimed next. Earth was on the list. Most members saw Earth as an easy target. Humans were young as a spacefaring species. They fought among themselves. Their technology was messy and uneven. Some worlds had watched Earth for years and believed humans were emotional, loud, and divided. To many in the chamber, Earth looked weak. A tall representative from the Orion cluster spoke first. He said humans could not resist a united fleet. Another voice from a mechanical world added that Earth's defenses were outdated. Several others agreed. They talked about resources, water, and a planet full of life waiting to be taken. Then a quiet voice interrupted them. Thomas Reed was one of the oldest advisors in the council. He was human but no longer lived on Earth. His hair was gray, his movements slow, and his voice calm. Many members ignored him most of the time. They believed humans were too biased to judge their own kind. But Thomas stood up. He placed a small data sphere in the center of the table. It projected images into the air. Not weapons, not ships, but scenes from human history. Cities destroyed by war. Hospitals full during pandemics. Flooded towns. Burning forests. Collapsing buildings. Thomas spoke softly. He said humans had faced disaster again and again. Not once. Not twice. For thousands of years. They lost millions of lives, rebuilt, and kept going. Every generation thought it faced the worst time in history. And every generation survived. He said humans were not calm because they were safe. They were calm because fear was familiar to them. The chamber grew quiet. Some members watched the images with interest. Others with discomfort. One asked why humans were still divided if they were so strong. Thomas replied that humans argued, failed, and made mistakes. But they learned fast. When something broke, they fixed it. When something scared them, they studied it. When something threatened them, they adapted. He said humans did not wait for perfect plans. They used whatever they had. Old machines. Simple tools. Improvised systems. They turned weakness into creativity. A representative asked if humans would fight back. Thomas shook his head. He said humans would not fight the way the galaxy expected. They would not panic. They would not collapse. They would continue living, working, laughing, and learning while under pressure. And that made them dangerous. Because you cannot control a species that refuses to behave as expected. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Some still wanted Earth. They argued that every world had survived something. That humans were not special. Thomas simply replied that humans were not special because they were powerful. They were special because they were used to losing and still standing up again. The council voted. Not all agreed, but enough did. A warning was sent to all fleets across known space. It was short and simple. Earth should not be attacked. No threats. No explanations. Just a recommendation based on long observation. Most commanders received the message and archived it. Some read it. And some ignored it completely. The alien fleet arrived without warning. One moment, space around Earth was quiet and empty. The next, hundreds of massive ships appeared in orbit. They were shaped like dark mountains, covered in glowing lines and moving lights. From the surface of Earth, they looked like new stars that did not belong in the sky. Across the world, alarms sounded. Satellites detected unknown energy. Astronomers saw the shapes clearly. News channels interrupted normal programs. Phones vibrated in people's hands. Screens filled with the same message. Unknown objects have entered Earth orbit. For a few minutes there was silence. Then something strange happened. Instead of panic, people started recording. From rooftops, fields, beaches, and city streets, humans lifted their phones and cameras. Social media filled with videos of the ships. Some people joked. Some made memes. Some compared the shapes to old science fiction movies. A few were scared, but most were curious. In New York, people gathered in parks and pointed at the sky. In London, tourists took pictures. In small towns, families stood outside their homes and watched quietly. The aliens monitored everything. Their scanners searched for signs of chaos. Emergency evacuations. Military launches. Mass fear signals. They found none. Human governments held emergency meetings, but there were no loud speeches. No threats. No immediate attacks. Instead, leaders asked for information. Scientists were invited to speak. Astronomers shared data. Engineers checked old systems. Emma Brooks sat in a control room filled with screens. She was a space communication scientist, used to working with satellites and deep space signals. Her hands moved quickly over the controls, but her face was calm. She expected screams in the background. There were none. Instead, her colleagues were drinking coffee. They were discussing how to send a message. Not a warning. Not a threat. A greeting. Emma noticed something important in the global data. Heart rates. Traffic flow. Internet use. Nothing showed mass panic. There were no riots. No large migrations. No sudden collapse of systems. Humans were acting like this was a strange event. Not the end of the world. The alien commanders watched the same data with growing confusion. Their training predicted fear. Civil disorder. Broken communication. Emotional reactions. Instead, humans were asking questions. News headlines said things like, "What are they made of? Can they hear us? Do they need water?" Some humans even welcomed them. Online, people wrote messages like, "Hope they're friendly. Finally, real aliens. Please don't be evil, we've had enough problems already." The fleet sent out a display of power. Several ships moved into tight formation. Lights brightened. Energy waves spread through space. It was meant to show dominance. A warning without words. On Earth, people reacted by zooming in with their cameras. Scientists measured the energy. Engineers studied the patterns. Artists turned the shapes into digital paintings within hours. Emma sent the first signal. It was simple. A basic mathematical pattern. A greeting in universal code. Not a demand. Not a surrender. Just a question. Is anyone there? The aliens received it. They had expected silence. Or screaming. Not curiosity. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the fleet did not know what to do next. Their arrival had caused interest. Not fear. The alien commanders decided to test humanity. They did not attack. They did not fire weapons or destroy cities. Instead, they used small pressure tactics. Quiet actions. Controlled actions. The kind meant to create stress without open conflict. One by one, several human satellites went dark. Communication signals weakened. GPS systems became unstable. Some international networks slowed down or failed. Air traffic control switched to backup modes. Weather systems lost data. From the alien point of view, this was enough to cause chaos. They expected airports to shut down, banks to freeze, hospitals to panic, governments to lose control. But something unexpected happened. Humans adjusted. In a small engineering center, Daniel Moore stared at a screen full of red warnings. He did not shout. He did not panic. He simply took a deep breath and opened an old storage file. He had worked on disaster systems for years. Not alien disasters. Earth disasters. Storms, blackouts, cyber attacks. He knew that modern systems always failed first. So he activated older ones. Radio communication replaced satellite links. Ground-based navigation systems were reactivated. Backup power grids switched on. Some systems were slow. Some were outdated. But they worked. Across the world, engineers did the same. People pulled out old manuals. Old cables. Old machines that had not been used in years. Some even used paper maps and handwritten notes. It was not perfect, but it was enough. Teachers noticed the changes too. In classrooms, students asked questions. Why was the internet slower? Why did maps look different? Why were some apps not working? Teachers explained calmly. They said something strange was happening in space. They said systems were being tested. They said this was a good time to learn how things worked without technology. Students listened. Some classes studied astronomy. Some discussed problem solving. Some even treated it like a real-life experiment. Markets stayed open. Shops accepted cash when digital payments failed. Farmers used local networks to share information. Truck drivers used radio instead of GPS. Hospitals switched to internal systems. Doctors wrote notes by hand. Nurses used printed schedules. Life became slightly harder. But it did not stop. The aliens watched carefully. Their models predicted rising stress. Public anger. Fear turning into chaos. Instead, humans were helping each other. Technicians shared solutions online. Communities created local networks. Neighbors checked on neighbors. People laughed about using old-school methods. Some even enjoyed it. They said it felt simple. Slower. More human. The alien commanders studied the data again and again. No collapse. No mass failure. Just adaptation. One commander asked how humans were doing this so easily. Another replied with something strange from human records. Humans had practiced this. Not for aliens. For themselves. They had survived blackouts, wars, disasters, pandemics, and system failures long before space travel. They had learned that nothing was permanent. Everything broke eventually. So they built backups. Not just machines, but habits. Cooperation. The aliens had tried to apply pressure. But pressure only revealed what humans already knew. How to function when things stopped working. The alien commanders stopped running tests. For the first time since their arrival, they turned their attention away from human systems and toward human history. Huge data streams were pulled from Earth's networks. Books, videos, records, documentaries, news archives, personal stories. Centuries of information filled their learning systems in only a few hours. At first, the data looked confusing. Humans fought wars with each other. They destroyed cities. They polluted their own planet. They created problems faster than they solved them. The commanders expected to find a pattern of self-destruction. Instead, they found a pattern of rebuilding. Every time humans lost something, they tried again. When cities burned, they were rebuilt. When diseases spread, medicine improved. When systems failed, new ones replaced them. Humans did not avoid failure. They lived inside it. One commander focused on natural disasters. Earth had earthquakes, floods, storms, fires, and droughts. Entire regions were wiped out many times in history. Yet humans stayed. They did not abandon their planet. They did not give up. They changed how they built, where they lived, and how they prepared. Another commander studied economic collapse. Markets crashed. Jobs disappeared. Entire societies struggled. Humans adapted again. They created new systems, new rules, new ideas. Some failed. Some worked. But they never stopped trying. The commanders could not understand this behavior. Most species avoided danger. They built perfect systems to prevent failure. And when those systems broke, the species collapsed. Humans were different. They expected things to break. So they did not fear it. Rebecca Hall was invited to speak to a global research group that included alien observers. She was a psychologist who studied human behavior during crisis. She did not use complex words. She said humans did not feel strong all the time. They felt scared, tired, and uncertain. But they had learned something important over thousands of years. Fear was not a signal to stop. It was a signal to act. She explained that humans had lived with danger for most of their history. Wild animals, hunger, disease, war, accidents, loss. Danger was normal. So humans built emotional systems to survive it. Humor, cooperation, hope, routine, curiosity. When something new appeared like the alien fleet, humans reacted the same way they always had. They watched. They learned. They adjusted. Rebecca said humans did not believe in perfect safety. They believed in recovery. They knew that something bad would always happen eventually. So instead of trying to avoid all risk, they learned how to stand up after falling. The alien commanders replayed her words many times. Recovery. They realized something unsettling. Humans were not calm because they felt safe. They were calm because they had been unsafe their entire existence. Experience had shaped their minds. Not peace. Not comfort. Experience. That was why fear did not control them. Fear was just another familiar feeling. Like rain. Or darkness. Or night before morning. The decision was made in silence. No alarms sounded in the alien fleet. No emergency signals were sent. The massive ships simply began to change position. Slowly, carefully, they turned away from Earth. From the surface of the planet, people noticed it almost by accident. Astronomers saw the movement first. Then satellites. Then news channels. The ships that had filled the sky for days were drifting backward, becoming smaller and dimmer. They were leaving. There was no celebration. No global cheering. Most people simply watched with quiet relief. Some smiled. Some felt tired. Some went back to work. Emma Brooks sat in front of her screen, staring at the data. She had prepared for many possible outcomes. Negotiation. Long contact. She had not prepared for this. A retreat without conflict. She opened a new file and began writing the final report for the International Council. She did not use dramatic language. She did not describe heroes or victories. She wrote in simple words. She wrote that humans had not defeated the fleet. They had not forced it to leave. They had not proven superiority in technology or power. They had simply remained themselves. Calm, curious, cooperative. The alien fleet returned to deep space and sent a final message to the Galactic Council. It was short, direct, almost cold. Earth is not suitable for expansion. Risk level high. The Council requested an explanation. The fleet replied with a long data package. human history, human behavior, psychological models, adaptation patterns. After reviewing it, the Council updated Earth's classification. Not dangerous, not hostile, but unpredictable. A civilization that did not react as expected. A species that functioned under pressure. A society that accepted failure and kept moving. That was more difficult to control than any weapon. Across distant systems, commanders read the new report. Some laughed at first. They expected tales of secret weapons or hidden fleets. Instead, they read about teachers using chalk. Engineers using old radios. Doctors writing on paper. People making jokes while facing the unknown. It made no sense. Until they understood. Humans did not see crisis as an ending. They saw it as a situation. Something to work through. Not something to surrender to. Emma ended her report with one final sentence. She wrote that humans did not win by force. They won because they refused to play the role expected of them. Across the galaxy, a new rule began to spread. Not as a law. Not as a command. As a warning passed quietly between stars. Never attack a species that has already survived everything. Because they are not afraid of the next disaster. They are already prepared to live inside it.